Today we're talking about Dawn of Rebellion, an Era Sourcebook, the first Era Sourcebook for the Star Wars role-playing game. Now really, in a lot of ways, this just feels like another location sourcebook. We got location sections, although not quite as robust as the other location sections are in the other location books, but they still got the single black page with the planet and the basic stats, like the type of style you see in the core book, but also followed by several pages of description. There's characters, there's Darth Maul statted, right? Yeah, Maul statted, some creatures, etc. So we got 6 main planets, a bit skimpier than the other location source books, or the actual location source books, and the Other Worlds section, which I like a lot better. This particular Other Worlds section is probably how it should be done. Half as many worlds. Instead of having like 8 locations with a single paragraph each, now they have like 4 or 5 locations with maybe 2 paragraphs each, or ooh, even 3. Wow, that's a lot more information. So, you know, it's actually worth reading, which is nice. And as far as the main locations, 6 main locations, we got stuff like the Death Star, along with the planet Scarif that it was built on. We, of course, also have all sorts of troopers, the Death Trooper and the Death Star Trooper, which they have the black teardrop. The Gunner, the Death Star Gunners, they're statted if you care. We got Lothal, which was a big planet in Star Wars Rebels. Dathomir, that was big on the cartoons, right? Alderaan, finally we get to see Alderaan in all its 3 pages of glory. And each world has its own little modular encounter attached to it. Instead of having a separate modular encounter section in the book, now each world has its own, and they do appear to be a bit on the shorter side. Some of the other location source books had encounters that really could be considered almost like mini adventures, or they had a couple encounters within them, or what could be a couple encounters. They felt longer, and some that were clearly on the shorter side. These, or most of them, definitely seem to be on the shorter side, but still, they're perfectly fine encounters. They're laid out nice and simply, and many of them can be easily put wherever you want them to be in your campaign. Even the Death Star one, which actually doesn't really take place on the Death Star. In fact, the Death Star is away. They don't even want to give you the chance to screw with the Death Star, I guess. I don't know. I don't know why the Death Star has to be away. It doesn't have to be away. It's actually just your party accidentally makes it to this secret location, an Empire base, any Empire base. Your players astragated their way by accident to this area, and then they have to escape. That's it. All you gotta do. Really great if someone screws up their astrogation check really badly, and you want to make it seem like astrogation matters. That's a nice, simple way to do it. Let's move on to the organization section, a really great section that it's split up into thirds, and each one focuses on a particular organization. One, the Rebels, the other, the Empire, and the third is actually a bunch of miscellaneous smaller organizations into one section. But each of these sections, these 3 main sections, really robust with a ton of information and characters statted. We got Grand Admiral Thrawn, and Darth Vader is finally statted, which, if you're worried maybe your bad guy might be too overpowered, you could always stack him up against Darth Vader. Or you could decide that this version of Vader is a pussy and like, nah, I'm gonna make mine way better. The TIE Advanced V1, one of my favorite ships from Star Wars X-Wing, is statted. That's fantastic. We also have on the Rebel side people like Ahsoka Tano and Phoenix Squad, the Spectres. From Rebels, the main cast: Hera, Kanan, Chopper, Sabine's TIE Fighter, if you're a fan of the show. In fact, this is really a source book for Star Wars Rebels, more than anything, with just a pinch of Rogue One sprinkled throughout here and there. And all 3 sections just have a ton of information and stats, really robust, really useful, just a really great section for any campaign set in this era. There's also a section for GMs, supposed to be more in-depthful advice for game masters on running campaigns. To be honest, I wasn't terribly impressed with this section. Then again, I'm not really sure what other advice you can really give on GMing that you haven't seen a million times in every single core rulebook. There's a lot of the same shit, a lot of common sense stuff. Some people might find it helpful. Whatever. It's fine. It's not really the reason to buy this book. Anyway, if you're a player, we got quite a bit of player options. In fact, if we're going to compare it to the location source books, there's a lot more player shit in here. We got 4 species, which is pretty standard, but also 6 universal specializations, which is fantastic. I am going to do a video, or actually probably 2 videos, covering these specializations in great detail, like I typically do with my character creation videos. But for now, I'm just going to say, we got the Force Adherent, which is sort of a Force fanboy, really. They don't actually have the Force, although it uses the Asian guy from the Rogue One as an example. I thought he kind of had the Force. I thought that kind of went without saying that he had the Force. That's why he could do magical Force things, but it was the Force flowing through him or something, or he trusted in the Force, therefore it helped him or some shit. Whatever. It's sort of an agile melee combatant with some strong will defense and also knowledge, that sort of thing. There's some interesting stuff here. Imperial Academy Cadet. Great if you want to play a defector. They're kind of a pilot with some group help stuff. We also got Padawan Survivor with no career skills, but a force rating of 1, just like the other universal specializations, except it feels like someone who has more actual training. They even get lightsaber as a career skill, I think, right? Somewhere? Yeah, there it is. Some basic lightsaber combat. The pirate is sort of an intimidating person, good at navigating the criminal underworld in a couple different ways, getting illegal merch, that sort of thing. The retired clone trooper who gets 6 career skills instead of the usual 4. They're a tough combatant with a fair amount of utility, and they do have a unique set of talents that can help protect yourself and other group members, which is nice. I think it's unique. I don't think I've seen it anywhere else. Ship captain is a talker and leader, which I guess technically, yes, leader is a talking skill. Typically in these trees, leadership is separate from talking in general. Not the case here. They get a bit of leadership stuff. But that's it on the trees for now. They'll get their own separate videos, or half the trees will get a video, the other half of trees will get another video. But I will say that all of these trees have a lot of character to them and are really good for helping flesh out your character mechanically, which I always love. And they feel less like supplemental trees like the previous 3 universal specs did, and more like actual trees unto themselves. In fact, I'm going to probably house rule if I ever run another Star Wars campaign. You can start, anyone can start with one of these universal or any universal specialization. You can start with that as your first specialization. Anyone can do it. Why not? If you want to play a retired clone trooper character, why should you have to pick hired gun, mercenary soldier tree, and then not use it forever because you have to spend 20 points on retired clone trooper tree and then focus on that tree and just let them take the tree right away. Why not? Why the heck not? Anyway, there's also a ton of new vehicles, droids, ships, and weapons, but no armor or attachments or cybernetics if you care. Now the 4 new species we have are the Drabatan, Gagarin, Iakaru, and Tagnoth, which I believe are all from Rogue One. The Drabatan are really loud frog people, and they're just about the purest talkers I've ever seen. Everything from the strong characteristic, the free skill ranks, and their really special ability, unique ability, all deal with talking in a variety of ways, different types of talking checks. I also love the fact that, apparently because they're so loud, their talking checks can affect a second character, which is kind of fun. The Gagorans are low-tech snow people. They're strong, they live in ice. That's about it. Not terribly interesting. The Iakaru are little monkey people that look like the love baby of the first 2, which is awesome. I feel like there's a story here. And because they're monkey people, they're really agile, as you'd expect monkey people to be. The Tagnoth are insect-mammal hybrids with robot eyes. They also have the atmosphere thing like the Gand and the Keldor. Not exactly like the Gand and the Keldor, but same kind of atmosphere requirement thing going on. And they also have a weird connection to their twins, basically egg mates, as they call them. Either twins or triplets. They share a psychic bond, and they can detect emotions and location, which could be interesting if you have a player and an enemy NPC, or a player and a player who are egg mates. If you want, you could do some fun stuff with that. So, who should buy Star Wars Dawn of Rebellion? Well, if you're a player, my advice would be the same as it would with any location sourcebook. If there's a character creation option, a species, and in this case, a talent tree, that you really just have to have, really brings your character to life, who also might have a lot of working knowledge you would find in this book. You know, an Imperial defector would have a lot of knowledge about the Imperials, and you're playing in this particular era. That part's important, and there's no other source book that really works for you. A career source book should always be your priority, but you can't find one that really works for your character. Or if you already have that career source book, then this can also be helpful to you as a player, same as any other location source book, which is really what this is. Now, as for GMs, yes, it's best for you if you're running a campaign in this particular era, but really, there are so many things that you could easily reskin. There are so many NPCs you can use, and so many locations. Even the Death Star really is just a really strong Imperial base. Most of the useful content can easily be reskinned and put into any campaign. Really, if you're not running a campaign in this era, the only section that's kind of useless to you would be the one in the middle that goes over the factions, because, well, some of that Empire and Rebel stuff might be out of date. But even that, really, it is mostly just NPCs statted, or a big chunk of it anyway. So yes, even that, still really useful to you. If you're running a campaign in this era, this is absolutely your top priority. You're going to get the most use out of it, especially if you love the Rebels TV show. This is definitely more of a Star Wars Rebels sourcebook than anything. Hence, Kanan Jarrus on the cover. But if you're not, this is still really useful. You're probably not going to regret your purchase, though I would recommend looking into a location source book. And if one of those really fits the specific campaign you want to run, like if it's all about the Force and gathering Force artifacts and all that magic shit, then yes, Nexus of Power is probably the first one you should get, for example. But if that's only going to be a section of your campaign and you already have the F&D core book, but you just want more stuff to work with, then that's definitely more of a reason to buy this one as one of your first. You could think of this as the jack of all trades source book for GMs. If there's not a specialist book specifically designed to do what you really want to do, well then get this. This is going to be a high priority for you. Anyway, that's it for today. If you like this video and want to see more, subscribe and shit.